Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the jar. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mental Health Today. This is Ken Stearns. I'm your host, and this is all about mental health, basically any topic around mental health. And we bring on different people across the spectrum. And this means, for me, it means people who are in the business of mental health, treating it, people who are in the financial side of it, that are helping that side, the healthcare side, the preventative side, the creative side, and then also trying to get different cuts, different views of different groups of people. What does it look like for different people to, first off, maybe changes in mental health, their own mental health, mental awareness, mental fitness, and how they're looking at that. And so kind of continuing in that vein of really doing a lot of different views at mental health. I was a guest on our next guest's show, Mike's. Mike, thanks for being a guest here on mine now and being part of the Beehive, kind of putting this thing together and getting a lot of different views on mental health today. And I think you've got a kind of an interesting one.
Well, thanks, Ken. It's great to be here. And hello, everybody. My name is Mike Markiewicz. I am the Director of Executive Programs at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee's Sheldon B. Lubar College of Business. And what I do there is I'm part of a group that provides non-credit executive education out to different organizations and different individual leaders in a hope to develop leaders' skills and business acumen. I'm finishing up my 8th year here at UW-Milwaukee, and prior to that, I spent about 23 years or so in corporate America with various organizations, industries, usually in some sort of learning or continuous improvement role, business optimization, if you will. And I started focusing on developing leaders about 20 years ago. And just, it's been a great role for me. It's been a great spot for me because I can just learn as much as I can and then try to pass that on and help other people.
Yeah. I mean, you must have seen a lot of different types of leaders and different skill sets, different challenges over the years.
Absolutely. And, even today when I'm sitting in all the different programs that we do, there's always something I realize, I've probably seen all of our content multiple times, if not, hundreds of times. And there's always something I can get better at, something I should say, well, I fall down on that every once in a while. I got to get better and redouble my efforts on that. So it's a constant learning. It's a lifelong learning thing for me.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. A good reminder, right, of going back and the fundamentals. Like you can't just drill those fundamentals. You go back to sports, right? When I was a kid, that was what won football games in the end, or won a basketball game. Sticking to the fundamentals. So I think leadership, same thing applies.
Yep, absolutely. And, today, a lot of stuff really does come down to the fundamentals of just general communication and relationship building and working with other people. It's, something sometimes people don't always want to do a lot of work in that space, but you can always get better and you're going to be better because of it.
What changes have you seen in maybe either in the skill set, maybe kind of a both, maybe kind of give us a double angle, but the skill set required and then the changes in the leaders that you see coming up or over time that have come up around emotional intelligence. I think things that these kind of future skill sets, you're going to see a lot of conversations around how leaders lead, emotionally, not, by strategy and by, daily tasks. It's going to be more, it's going to be more of a holistic leadership. And I'm not quite sure what it's going to look like, but maybe what are you seeing? Because you're there on the ground. And
speaking of emotional intelligence, that is in literally every program that we do.
Yes, right.
It's the core of being a leader these days, and just and leadership to me exists on multiple levels. There's the positional leaders who have formal leadership responsibility.
Hmm.
But I believe everybody can be a leader, and everybody should be a leader.
Mm.
And the core of that is really to be emotionally intelligent. And how do you recognize when things are happening, to, emotions are coming or being triggered in your body and in your mind, and how do you recognize what's happening and then act with some thought instead of just doing maybe what's your first reaction, and which may not be the best reaction, as sometimes,
Well,
and as far as leaders go, I think, the days of command and control are waning, if not almost.
yeah, already left the building.
Right. I mean, there's times for that, and there's, when you're trying to get, something wrote done, and there's
Yeah.
a little bit of a space for that. But to be a really true a good leader these days, you've got to work more on the interpersonal skills. Empathy has become even bigger than it has been. It's always been important, but now it's really big. And
Mm.
a lot of what I talk about these days are about workplace burnout and how can leaders help themselves manage
Yes. Yeah.
chronic workplace stress, as I like to call it, and then how can they help others? Because if they can help themselves, they should be able to then help others after that.
Yeah. And for me, this is a really great topic. The burnout and stress. I look back now, knowing a crumb. All right, I know a crumb of what this topic is about, and I look back at my ogre ass self, and just thinking about people going, why are they behaving like that? What are they doing? They're sucking at their job, honestly.
Yeah.
And you're almost like angry, because it's like, what are you doing? And then now looking back going, actually, that person did have a crazy responsibility, probably an absolute wreck of a team below them, and they were just barely holding it together. Right. And we had zero empathy, like really bad.
Yeah, and it's something that chronic workplace stress has always been there.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's just that, and believe it or not, did you know that the World Health Organization classified workplace burnout as an official syndrome before COVID-19 even started?
Oh,
Okay,
man.
and
Oh,
but we didn't talk about it really before COVID. Yeah, I mean, yeah, people burned out, and you're just
it's
kind
like
of like,
it's
whatever.
almost like a duh.
Yeah,
I don't need the World Health Org to tell me people are a mess at work.
exactly. And now,
Right. You see it.
I think one of the good things that came out of the pandemic, if there is such a thing, that, going through this, people are a little more in tune to it. And, before the pandemic, we certainly weren't talking about Sunday scaries, if you've heard of that, or bare minimum Mondays. And even today, I just read an article earlier this morning in my morning reading about how students are increasingly refusing to go to school because they have anxiety
Yeah.
around going there.
I've seen this. Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just really scary. And, millions of Americans every year have, some sort of mental health condition or an episode. And that number keeps trending in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
And over half of them don't even reach out for help. So that is what, I'm kind of on a little bit of a mission to help people, and help leaders just, you don't always have to put on a show as a person or as an employee, as a family member. It might look like on the surface everything's okay, but if you need some help, you should go out and get some, and try to leverage your support system or even professional help if you need it.
I think. What is your view on the kind of training you're doing? Right. And
Yep.
you described perfectly that response mechanism. Right. The teaching people how to respond appropriately, like in a corporate environment under this, and then obviously that translates to your interpersonal skills. I feel really fortunate. I've shared this quite a few times, different platforms. I feel really lucky. I was a sales grinder driving around LA in my car with a tape cassettes, and I had been turned on to motivational tapes, motivational speakers from the 40s, the 60s, 70s, pre Tony Robbins stuff.
Sure.
Zig Ziglar. I
Yep.
probably had about 20 Zig Ziglar tapes on the floor, the back seat of my car, with In-N-Out burger stains and Taco Bell wrapper. I'd reach back there and just pull one out, and whatever the universe said was that tape, that was the one that went in. I had about 20 of them in a pile, but that gave me so much good mind training and teaching me how to control my mind. Yeah, you had a bad 4 days of prospecting, but there's find value in that. What did you learn? You know, you got rejected, but what did you learn? You cross people off your list. That's great. And you found some kind of, you kept some on your list. That's cool. Anyway, I think that what you're doing is also has that same value of teaching people what we never get, which is how to talk to yourself, how to have good, positive conversations before you act.
Yeah. The self-talk is so important. And I've done a couple podcasts on that myself with some folks.
Okay.
And, the one thing I think that was kind of a big aha moment to me when I started focusing more on this wellness and mindfulness and these types of topics and emotional intelligence is that nobody is immune to chronic workplace stress, right? Nobody's immune to it. We are constantly, we wake up in the morning and I like to talk in terms of like our self-care battery, right? And our battery is getting depleted every day.
Okay.
And your job is to try to, replenish that somehow, recharge it, replenish it, so it doesn't get down to zero. And our program that we do, we call it Burn Bright because we don't want you to burn out. We want you to burn bright instead.
Burn bright. I love it.
Yeah, it's actually created by the Center for Creative Leadership, which is globally recognized for their research around leadership. And now over the years, they've created a lot of great learning development opportunities, and we're partners with them to deliver this program. And, the whole concept starts with the self-care battery. And if you think about your cell phone, right, just about everybody's got one. How often do you check your cell phone's battery every day to make sure it doesn't get down to that critical level or definitely down to zero?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All the time. We're checking these things
all the time.
How often are you checking your personal battery to make sure it doesn't get down to zero? Right? Not nearly as much. And some people not at all. Right?
Yeah.
And what happens is when you're not checking that battery, you're getting that exhaustion setting in. You got the energy depletion. You can feel it, but you're not necessarily maybe acting about it. You start, if it really gets bad, you're getting maybe a little more mentally distant from your job, a little more negativity setting in, some cynicism. And that's just, not good for you, not good for your team. You're probably not being as effective as you can be. It leads to burnout, which is what we're seeing really manifest itself in this great resignation. And again, like, the Sunday scaries and the Monday minimalist stuff. It's really just, starting to snowball here. So, the trick is really how do you, from an emotional intelligence standpoint, like we were talking about earlier, is how can you not necessarily put on a front anymore and start looking at saying, I'm realizing that my battery's getting low. I've got to take some action here to get that up.
Yeah. And I think this level of training, if we can get, this is one way to really help the crisis, right? I think we've got a real crisis on our hands, and you can't, therapists is not the answer, right? We don't have enough therapists now. You can't grow enough therapists in time, and it's not sustainable. It's not the answer. And, for sure. So that's part of the solution. And it's been a mainstay. And I think the other backups that are coming in for people who are in real need to talk to a professional, the online remote stuff that's there. But I think the educational part is missing, and I come back to that, the self-talk and learning, what is positive, how to how to recognize when your mind is starting to do crazy things, and how to kind of, get up off your chair and go stand in the grass naked if you've got grass, or, whatever you have to do, but to give you some tool sets,
right,
so we can address this stuff at a base level for ourselves. And then also you can judge when it's going past which you can help yourself. And then, like, oh, I need to get help. And I think that would be, anyway, seems to me the educational part's so important. And I just wonder how we do it faster.
Yeah, that is the mission, right? That's the key. And, we've done this program with, organizations that are recognized as, we're talking in the top, 1% of great companies to work for, if you will,
yes.
That are rated. And the thing that's been really surprising to me is the leaders that these organizations are putting through our program. They're all in the same boat, and they're realizing, I'm not alone. Yeah, yes,
Yes.
I wake up at 3 in the morning. We're all waking up at 3 in the morning with a little bit of anxiety. Time for a meeting. No, just kidding. But you know,
Oh,
everybody has something that they're working with, and
yes.
when we get people together to talk, once we build that awareness, and then we just get some small, an hour a week for 4 weeks, we'll get together with groups and we'll talk about sharing ideas and what's happening in their world. And
Okay.
a
Yeah.
lot of it really centers around three big things for
Okay.
the first one is sleep. What are your sleep patterns, and how are you doing with sleep, because that's kind of a huge element of this. The other is movement, and then nutrition. It's kind of like a triangle. If you can get those three things under control, you're going to have a better chance of managing kind of that day-to-day stresses and those things that are coming at you. When you don't, you kind of fall into maybe what's called or what we could call an inadvertent vicious cycle. So, for example, like myself, right? If I'm working too much and then I try to go to bed because I'm working late, my brain's still spinning.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I get a bad night of sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm probably making some bad decisions about food. Then I don't feel so good because I don't want to go work out. Right?
Yeah, because you ate some garbage.
Right, exactly. Then it's hard to fall asleep at night again because now I just don't feel good. And then it just kind of, and I'm waking up at 3 a.m. because I'm feeling bad about myself and about work and such. So, this stuff can happen over and over again. And, I've noticed now, when things start getting a little out of control, I'm not feeling so good. Hey, let me get some nutrition in me, some good nutrition. Let me get some movement going. And the sleep usually follows after. And then I'm usually a little more in control of things. And I feel
So
a little
funny.
bit better.
It's really interesting what you just described, and I just realized that I have to come back to you on something else. But I have in the JAR Foundation, one of the kind of fundamental ideas behind it. So it's a little bit off topic, but kind of on. I mean, on topic for you and I.
Sure.
But probably off topic for the show, but maybe interesting for anybody listening because it'll be the future. Anyway, one of the ideas around the foundation was to create kind of a self-funding ecosystem, kind of a small ecosystem, because foundations or nonprofits typically struggle with the money thing, or if not struggle, it's you're always got your hand out.
Sure.
And I'm a business person first, so I think I can create some businesses that can feed back into the foundation and help fund a modest foundation doing modest stuff, but doing our own part. But I realized that the mental health part is really is an outcome, right? It's a symptom.
Yep.
And and the healthcare is managing that, right? And psychologists, we're all managing it. But the part that's critical is this triangle. And so I have a strategy plan. I'll send you my deck, which has got JAR movement, JAR fuel, JAR knowledge. And knowledge is around the stuff that you're doing. And then what you just talked, and I was saying, it's like a triangle in the middle. If you've got all those three right, you've got some skills on how to talk if you've got skills how to talk to yourself, you've got good food going in, and you've got movement happening. In the center of that is probably a pretty balanced overall mental fitness.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely should be in a good position to be able to combat that stress and such. And one thing about nutrition too, I came across this a while back, and another huge aha moment for me on my learning journey and my leadership journey is, you talk about nutrition, and I was kind of trying to focus on losing weight at the time, and ended up losing 70 pounds. And been able to keep it off, which has been great. Best change management project of my life, right? But what I didn't realize, and somebody said to me, you're focused so much on what you're putting into your body, physically putting into your body.
Yeah.
Are you also focused on what you're putting mentally into your body, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and it just as an example, when I was starting to look at all the COVID numbers long before it really hit. I was trying to say, something's going on here. Let me keep an eye on this. And these cases are going up. And, pretty much before it really hit the mainstream and the world started getting shut down and such. And then after it got shut down, I was just drawn to all this news and all this kind of negative stuff. And finally, I realized I just had a moment. And I said, I can't be watching this anymore. I've got to limit my intake of this from a mental standpoint.
Yep.
And things changed for me. I got a lot happier, felt a little more in control. So now I'm much more careful about what I put into my brain as well as what I put into my body. It'll always be a work in progress, but when you think about what you're putting into your body from a food standpoint, don't forget about the mental standpoint too.
Yeah, I mean, just coming across those the experiments about voice,
Yep.
and there was one. I think it was oatmeal. Can't remember if it was rice, basically white rice,
Mm-hmm.
and you cook these cook some rice, and you put it in 2 jars, and you leave them on the counter, and you come out every morning or every night, maybe twice or 3 times a day, and you just shout angry, nasty words at one jar, and the other jar you tell it it's beautiful and I love you and you're the wonderful. And after a bit of time, one jar stays white and the other one doesn't.
Yep.
And it's been repeated with water, with sand, like obviously with sand, and they come out with these beautiful, different frequencies. So it just, if imagine sound has got that power as well, visually, whatever you're putting into your mind, and also data and
right.
Geez, man, it's scary to think how we miss how powerful some of that is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then, when we're teaching emotional intelligence, we'll talk about emotional contagion. So, just how your mood is catchy, and especially if you're a leader. So, if anybody's worked for somebody who you can kind of tell what kind of day you're having just when that person walks in the door.
Yes.
It's far too common that people do that. So, you got to watch, how do you show up and how can you be your best self every day?
How you show up.
Right. Yeah. So, how can you be your best self every day, whether it's at work or with your family, with your friends, or just with, perfect strangers when you're out and about, right? How can you be your best self?
Yeah.
Put yourself in a position to be that way.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thought, right? It's just trying to be the best person in the room you can, be the best version of yourself.
Right. Yeah. Because if you're not, it's going to be contagious. And if you are, it's going to be contagious too, which is a good thing, right? So you can, just a smile sometimes can help. I was on vacation with my family. We were down in Orlando, and we had to switch hotels for part of the trip. And we checked in at, kind of later in the middle of the evening, but, the end of the day per se. And I was just talking to the receptionist and the person checking me in. And at the end, she just stopped and she's like, "Hey, thanks for smiling. I really appreciated that." And I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "You're welcome." And she's like, "Yeah, it's been a really rough day." And she's like, "It was just nice here at the end of the day to have somebody just smiling at me." And, I wasn't doing it on purpose or anything. That's just who I am. And it was really nice because, you hear these stories sometimes of people who, are kind of on their last nerve, their last rope.
Yeah.
And,
it's a real thing.
and they just want someone to say hello to them or or acknowledge them. And you never know who that is. So if you can, put out some positive energy into the world, you could really help somebody and not even know it. But luckily this woman was nice enough to say something to me about it.
Yeah. And that'll feed you for another 100,000 smiles.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's enough food right there. And that's a super honey right there.
Yeah.
A super food.
Yeah.
Maybe describe what is it like going through your program? Maybe share a little bit about the program.
Yeah, thanks. It's a hybrid program. So essentially there's, it's ideally 4 weeks long, and we'll do a kickoff meeting at the beginning. And then you have a week to complete about 3 hours of online content at your own pace. The only thing we ask is that you're usually going through the program with a group of people. So there are some online discussions. So try to at least maybe do a first pass earlier in the week and then come back later to respond to some people and get some conversation going online. And each week talks about something big. So, 1 week is about sleep and 1 week's about nutrition and, et cetera, like that. And then there's some tools along the way to maybe track your habits and such. So the more you put into it, the better off you are. And then at the end of each week, I facilitate a live discussion for an hour. And this is where we get everyone kind of sharing what's going on in their world and, create a safe environment for that, a safe space. And people can start sharing things. So they might share, recipes for nutrition or what are their tactics to when they wake up at 3 in the morning, how do they fall back asleep, or how do they, what types of movement things are they doing? Another thing that we talk about is really just what brings you joy, and what are some things you maybe do in the summer that help you with all these things, and then how does that change when you go to winter, right?
Yeah.
Because we had some people, they were like, yeah, I was really good on movement in the summer, but we live in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin, so it's a lot of backyard barbecues and bratwurst and beers and things like that. So maybe I wasn't to make the best nutrition choices in the summer, but I was doing really good at movement and I was sleeping good.
Exactly.
And I was having fun, but now the winter is like, okay, I can't, I'm not going to be doing as much of that stuff, and I can't do the same stuff outside that maybe I wanted to. So we talked about how do you make that transition and what are some things that you can do. And it was great, all these ideas people started sharing and all these recipes, and whether it be weekly trivia night to go out with friends, or movie night, or just a date night type of thing. That's more winter type stuff, but then the summer you've got all sorts of things you can do out here. So a lot of sharing each week, and helping each other out and building. It's great team building. It's great just camaraderie and such, and gets people away from their desk for a little while and talking about themselves, which is great. Another thing we talk about, we spend quite a bit on here, is gratitude too. And how do you express that every day? It could be something as simple as just thinking about every day 3 things that you're grateful for,
right? And
making sure that those are different things every day. You can't just always say, well, I'm grateful for family and I'm grateful to be above ground. Try to come up with something specific to that day. And you can take that as long as you want.
Nice.
You could as far as you want. Some people like to write it down, or some people like to write thank you notes to people or reach out to others. That's great. But as long as you at least spend a couple minutes reflecting and thinking about, today wasn't all bad. Here's some things that were good. And sometimes if it's a bad day, just getting up is a win, right? So celebrate your wins, whatever they are. Celebrate them, and you're going to have some good days and some bad days, but the good days will turn, unfortunately, into maybe some bad days here and there, but bad days turn into good days.
It's this is life, right? It's ups and downs, and I think I think a lot of what we can do is give people these skill sets. I mean, the practical stuff that you're doing is critical, critical to managing yourself and kind of helping others. Like you said, if you can recognize that you're carrying this ball of energy around, and if you're a big sourpuss, you're going to spoil, you're going to pretty much ruin every room you walk into.
Right.
Literally, like you said, you can pour, your energy is there and it's palpable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start getting on that negative frequency. Everybody, I didn't realize this, but I interviewed for my jar. I interviewed a musician here and in Springfield. I'm in Missouri right now. So interviewed a musician, and he's telling me, oh yeah, we're talking about frequencies. And come to find out that the guitar can be tuned. I didn't know this. I understand tuning. I understand,
Sure.
but there's a frequency as well that you can tune to.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So so he taught me about the one that is a very good, mellow, very, very, very beautiful one. But the one that they have you on default is not actually a really pleasant frequency for the human body. So actually from the app, and actually the normal standard frequency is not a great one for the human body. It doesn't resonate. Yeah, I had no idea. So opened up my app, and he showed me the frequency part. You dial it in, and it's very strange. Your guitar is totally out of tune. Obviously, right? Because you change, and then it drops kind of down a little bit, is what it was. Drop down a bit, but it sounds exactly the same to my ear, which is very weird.
Sure.
Yeah, but it resonates differently.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
I'm just loving this, the sound parts of this and the healing part around sound, and then music, the healing stuff that we're seeing with music. I've had a guest on this show, JJ. I'm sorry, Nick Johnson, NICC, and I was talking about music as a healing and how it helps the brain.
Yeah, music therapy, absolutely.
Yeah, music therapy, right? Music therapy. So music could also be part of your in your curriculum, guys? Do you talk about sound? Like, did you talk about music and or is that shared among the peers,
A
the
little
students?
bit. Yeah, some people do. We talk about that as one of the tactics to use,
Yeah,
especially maybe in like a wind down routine or um, in the morning, maybe just listen to some music. I know when I was in college and I was having trouble sleeping and such, I would listen to classical music, and that helped me, for instance, and just kind of
yeah.
settled me down and helped me get to sleep.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It's been Mike. It's been a lot of fun. Very interesting. You did not disappoint. Not that I expected that to happen, but I mean more like the surprise part of coming up with the movement and the
Sure.
nutrition part. I love it. The synchronicity there.
No, it's been great. I appreciate it. And yeah, just if I could share a couple final thoughts for
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. I want to invite you to kind of take your time and
yeah.
just share some thoughts.
Yeah, just again, as a leadership person and someone who tries to help create better leaders out there, and I think as a leader, the first thing, set the example and build small habits for yourself. So take
Mm,
that on the airplane, the safety briefing, put your mask on first, then you can help others, right? So kind of that concept. And really a lot of it comes down to listening. And I know we all
mm,
think we're great at listening. Trust me, we can all get better at listening, myself included. Because if you're listening and you're really watching what's happening from a body language standpoint, people will tell you what's happening with them. They might not use words, but if
mm.
you're really paying attention, I think
Yes.
you can
Yeah.
figure it out, and you can get a little better connection with people. And as a leader, I believe in having strong connections with not only your direct reports, but people who are around you and people who are maybe that you report to. And part of being a leader is really creating a psychologically safe environment, so people can come up and
Mm.
say, I'm not having a great day. I'm struggling with whatever, and you can listen to them and hear what they're saying. And you don't necessarily have to solve their problems. You don't need to take their problems on, but sometimes people just want to be heard. And just being able to listen to people and maybe point them in a direction if they do need maybe more of a employee assistance program resource, or maybe more professional resources. That's something as a leader you can always be up on and help people. But in final words, I would just say is, give yourself some grace when it's a bad day, and give other people
That's,
grace when
that's
it's
a
a bad
real.
day for them. And, if you need help, go get it, whether it's your support system, family member, or something more professional. But yeah, give yourself some grace. It's, every day is not an easy one. So but you can get through it.
It's really great. I love all those. I love all those pointers, man. Real stuff, especially the grace part, giving everybody some grace, and it just makes us a better human as we kind of walk through life. Thanks again, Mike. Thanks again, everybody, for supporting the Jar. I'm sorry, the Jar, as well as the Jar Foundation, and then most importantly, mental health today. This podcast will be ultimately posted on Apple, the iTunes platform, excuse me, as well as Spotify and all the other regular platforms where you can find that, I think, in the links. But until then, see you soon. And I'll see you on the other side, Mike. Hang on.
Yeah, loose, baby.
But we're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glassblowing. Yeah, we're gonna go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.